Okay. Okay. So, first of all, this microphone is connected to my TikTok live that I have going. Hello, everybody. Hi. Thank you for being here. TikTok, I'm going live also. My gosh, do you hear that? That's the rain in LA, you guys. Okay. Um, but my mic isn't also connected to my computer, just so you know that. It's just for my TikTok because my microphone on my freaking phone is messed up. But I'm going live on both. I'm doing it for the first time just because I thought I have both places, both social media sites that I talk about this case on. And I thought it was only right to do both. So we're doing both. If you want to follow my YouTube channel on TikTok, hit the Insta icon in the bio or search Madiswan and you can watch me also on live there. But today we are going to be discussing some Shanquella Robinson updates, y'all. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot to update y'all on, but there is still some. And, I know that since a lot of people stopped getting as much views as they were when the case first dropped about Shanquella Robinson, people have stopped posting about Shanquella Robinson. And I have a whole YouTube channel, if you guys don't know, based upon BIPOC true crime stories that I'm really proud of. I've been doing it for a year since January, and my whole goal is to highlight stories. Hi, Sid. Is to highlight stories that don't normally get the same attention that normal true crime stories with white people do. So when this case dropped, I think the world stopped, especially when that video dropped, y'all. Like, we all can agree, everyone was talking about it. But I feel like as the days and months have worn by, more and more people stop talking about it. And I just think that's really sad. So I just want to make a commitment to all of you guys on my lives right now that this is going to be one of those cases that I'm going to be following from top to bottom. I've been updating y'all since the case first dropped the first time, the first day when the video dropped, and I'm going to be updating you guys about it until time continues to go on, until there's justice, because she deserves it. And this is my whole thesis for my YouTube channel. So, yeah. Also, for everybody watching, I got a lot of this information from the North Carolina Beat. If you don't know, now you know. The North Carolina Beat is a place to be, honey. Like, when I tell you, it's a page ran by a guy named Gerald, and he specializes in bringing light and bringing attention to stories involving mostly Black people. On his channel, he was the first one to get Shanquella's dad to go live and interview with him. He was the first one to really talk about the story. He's in deep personal contact with Shanquella's family. So all of the reporting, he's local to North Carolina. So all of the reporting that he's been doing has been super true to the family and making sure that it's being reported correctly in their image, because they are still fighting for justice. So if you don't know, now you know. Look up the North Carolina Beat on YouTube and you can see this live where he actually has screenshots of the document I'm going to summarize on my live. I just wanted to condense it for you guys just because on his live, he was talking about two other cases involving Black people that still haven't been solved, and including updates on Shanquella. And I'm focusing on Shanquella Robinson's case. So just so you know, if you're curious, on my YouTube channel, if you're here in the description of this live, you will see a link to the full live that I'm talking about. And there are screenshots in that live of these official documents of that I'm about to discuss. Now, the update about Shanquella, unfortunately, isn't super juicy. No one's been arrested. It has officially been almost 5 months since Shanquella Robinson passed away. She passed away on the 29th of October. and no one has been arrested. No one has been extradited. No one has been charged. No one has been sent to Mexico to face these crimes. The Cabo Six are still on the run, as we know. And so it's important that we continue to keep this story alive because she deserves justice. And Shanquella's family is doing just that. So here's the update without further ado. Now, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, but recently there was a crazy case that kind of was already solved within like 2 weeks of a group of Black tourists, cosmetic surgery tourists who were driving down to Mexico who got kidnapped. 4 of those people ended up dead. They were kidnapped by the cartel. The cartel then ratted on themselves and tied up the people who allegedly kidnapped these people and killed these people and, made it known, wrote a note and was like, they did this. We are not affiliated with them. But I know this doesn't make sense to some people, but it does to me. A lot of people, the reality is Shanquella Robinson's family were speaking up during that time because these cases both happened in Mexico, and it seemed like the case with the 4 people who were kidnapped and killed got solved extremely quickly. And of course, that's partly due to the cartel ratting on their own and bringing justice to these people. But at the same time, Shanquella Robinson's family was just drawing a comparison, and that motivated them to write a letter to President Biden. And attached to that letter were documents. In that letter, they were urging President Biden to get personally involved in this case. If you don't know, on my TikTok, and if you're on YouTube, go to the description and below, follow me on TikTok. But I have an update, a couple videos down where I talk about how there's an article that went live earlier this month where basically Shanquella Robinson's lawyer was interviewed, family's lawyer was interviewed, and she was saying, the process of extradition is not fast, but at the same time, it's in the United States' hands at this point to proceed with what they need to do and cooperate with the Mexican government to extradite the Cabo Six. And they have not done that. It is required, it is important for someone in the government of our country to push forward to get these people extradited, and no one has stepped up to the plate. Okay? So that's the backdrop that we're dealing with at this point. People are, Shanquella Robinson's family is feeling slighted by the FBI, slighted by the investigation, and they feel like nothing's been moving forward at all. And at this point, the Shanquella Robinson case has stalled out on the side of the United States government for not pursuing extradition for these people. Now, basically, the situation with the tourists that were kidnapped and killed by the cartel inspired Shanquella's family to write the letter to Biden to get Biden involved. Attached to that letter were documents that were literal transcripts of a personal investigation done by Shanquella's family and their legal team. Now, this is not some sort of like man on the street trying to get in the way of the police operation investigation. This was an investigation led by the family's lawyers who went down to Cabo, who interviewed the people working at the villa when the Cabo Six and Shanquella stayed there, and interviewed the workers that worked for the villa and things like that. So in these documents, there's 2 people interviewed, the administrator of the villa, as well as the personal concierge for their specific villa. Now, just some context, if you guys don't know, with a villa and a hotel are different. I'd like a villa more to like an Airbnb type of situation where you have typically a kitchen and lots of other amenities and a private space. If you don't know what a concierge is kind of like a concierge desk at a hotel. Typically, that's where guests call down. I want this. I need extra towels. Can you hook up a taxi for us to go to the airport? The concierge is someone that works very personally with the guests in order to get them their needs. So it's very interesting that Shanquella's legal team went down there and was talking to their specific personal concierge because he had a lot to say. Now, the administrator who was also interviewed, his name is Santiago. He was not as involved personally with the Cabo Six and Shanquella like the concierge was, but his testimony that's on record was very damning in terms of putting the timeline together for when the events actually happened. So it was still important for providing context, very, very key to solving this case and stuff like that. So, like I said, this investigation isn't an amateur hour. This is going within their legal bounds with their legal team led by the lawyers representing Shanquella's family. They went down, they interviewed the workers that were there that day when Shanquella passed away, interviewing, getting their testimony on record. So these interviews were done in a police building in Mexico, and they're all on record. All the transcripts are available. Again, if you want to see the actual screenshots of these transcripts, go to my YouTube video. In the description, you can watch a North Carolina Beats video where he has the actual screenshots. Now let's get into it, okay? So let's see. The first document was the testimony of the administrator named Santiago. The administrator basically works with all the paperwork involved in booking the villa and all of that. So, this is a villa company. They have several villas in Cabo and they have several employees. So, the administrator works for the company and was familiar with who booked the room, who was there, and all the details about that. In this testimony that I found really particularly interesting was the fact that he was able to note the time of day that the video was taken, the infamous video of the fight. He was saying that you could tell by the position of the sun in the window of the room where the attack happened that it was early in the morning. And obviously, he's familiar with the property. He's familiar with when the sun goes up, goes down. He's been in these villas in and out. So he knows what is going on and he knows more context than we do watching the video. What he noticed was it's obvious that the fight happened probably between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. Excuse me, on the 29th of October. You can tell by the positioning of the sun. And he basically was talking about how it seemed like it was the first thing in the morning that happened. This attack happened, which I thought was really interesting for laying context for the attack itself. Let's see. Okay, so again, he was able to spot the villa. You know, he knows that it was villa number 3 because outside of the video of the attack, you could see that there was a hammock outside of the window, which is the only villa. Villa number 3 is the only villa with a hammock outside of the window. So basically, the administrator was there to lay the footing for the concierge, and we're about to get into the concierge testimony. But just know that he confirmed that they were in the villa that they booked, that it was early morning when the attack happened, and that, you know, he was very sorry and regrettable about what happened to Shanquella. Now, let's get into the concierge's ciao. This is meaty because, like I said, the concierge was there. He was there. He interacted with everybody. He interacted with the Cabo Six. He remembers meeting Shanquella. He remembers her temperament when he met her. So let's get into that. Okay. So, basically, here's how it starts. On October 28th, they were due to arrive to the villa at around 3 p.m. Cabo time. Okay. Cabo time, 3 p.m. Cabo time. Now, he got a text from Dejanay Jackson, and Dejanay Jackson basically told him, we're going to be late. We also want to go shopping, pick up some alcohol, some food stuff before we come in, and then we will be coming later. And the concierge basically was like, thanks for the update. I'm going to go into the villa to make sure everything's good, to make sure everything looks good, blah, blah, blah. him and Dejanay Jackson were in constant communication. And what was told in those documents was that the screenshots of that communication with Dejanay Jackson to corroborate what this concierge was saying were all attached to the document sent to Biden. Just so we're all clear. So there's proof of this, there's a paper trail. Okay. So basically, they come into Cabo at around 5. They were delayed. Their flight comes in at 5. They go shopping. They come around 8. The concierge comes in before they're due to arrive, since he's directly texting Dejanay, and he's making sure everything's good. But when he gets there, he realizes that there's a group of them already there, and he wasn't alerted that there was already a group of them at the villa. So they traveled in stages. As we know, Nazir Wiggins came later, and we'll get into that. But what we do know is there were people already there who had not contacted the concierge or touched base with the concierge. He was expecting the entire group to be with Dejanay. She never told him that the other group was there early. He just showed up trying to get prepared for when Dejanay and the group, he thought the entire group was going to arrive. And there was a group of them that was already there. So he was shocked and kind of like, was like, okay, hi, my name is this, I'm the concierge, and introduced himself, blase squaze. Dejanay and them arrive around 8, and basically he noticed Shanquella was there. He noticed that Shanquella seemed kind of melancholy there, is what he said about her temperament before everything happened. When he first met her, she was really melancholy. She was kind of separated from the group. And he thought that was kind of odd, but didn't really think anything of it. Maybe she was tired, maybe this, maybe that. But he, in the testimony, said he noticed that she seemed kind of separated, like apart from the group when everybody showed up. So, boom. 8 o'clock, they're there, they have alcohol, they're getting to know the space, he's showing them around, and they have to sign papers. Now, if you've been keeping up with the case from the beginning, you know there's a lot of confusion about the papers that were leaked about who was in the villa at what time, because every one of them was supposed to register who was in the villa at what time and all of that. And so basically, essentially, ciao. This is where the confusion, where Nazir's live, when he went live early on, when people were like, we saw that you had written your name in, you said you were here at 3. The concierge confirmed that Dejanay Jackson was the one to write down Nazir's name, because she asked if he had to sign it. He wasn't there. And basically he said, you can just sign his name. So that's like all deaded. Like, she signed his name. He wasn't there secretly. It is what it is. He came later. That has been confirmed by the concierge. They do all the registration, and they're all kind of hanging out. And he notices that Shanquella is like alone. Like, she's like apart from everybody. He goes into the room where everyone's hanging out and getting into their vibe, and basically tells them like, hey, the chef is about to leave. So he wasn't there on the 28th. He goes in and he warns them the chef is about to leave, because if you know, with a villa, you get amenities. People get amenities. And so part of the package that they had is they had a chef that would cook their meals for them. And the chef was supposed to only be there for a specific amount of time. And because they were late, he basically was like, you guys need to eat dinner now, because the chef is going to leave. And when the chef leaves, or when the chef's time is up, now we have to charge you more for each hour that he stays. So they all get ready for dinner, come to the table, everything's signed. And he basically notices that Shanquella comes out way later than the group to the table, and she sits at the end of the table, and she's not really talking to anybody. She's not being social. And again, it seems like something is going on behind the scenes under the current of things, but he's not assuming that she's going to be dead the next day. So he's just like, maybe she's arguing with somebody, maybe they're beefing, maybe there's something, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not until something crazy happens that you have to play back everything, and you realize 2020 hindsight is 2020 vision. So what he was seeing was she was melancholy coming. She was sat at the table by herself. She was taking videos and pictures by herself. No one was really speaking to her. So there was another video that floated around when this case first broke that basically was detailing the fact that it was a video of I don't know if it was on Shanquella's phone or something, but Shanquella, they were all in a room without her, and Shanquella came into the room and they all stopped talking. And that was caught on video. I don't know if it was someone's story. I forget the details of that video, but that video does exist. And so, again, corroborating kind of what the concierge was putting down in terms of it seemed like there was a group dynamic. She seemed outside of the group. He didn't think anything of it at the time, but it was strange now looking back at what ended up happening a mere 12 hours later. You know what I'm saying? So, boom, boom, boom. Sorry. Okay. Here's where things get crazy. So, everything goes off. I don't know if you've been following my updates on TikTok, but I posted a video that was from Shanquella Robinson's phone or from Khalil Cook's story. I forget which one, but they posted a video of Shanquella, and it was that night, the night of the 28th, where she's like passed out drunk in the hammock outside of her room. And basically, Khalil Cook's filming her like, ooh, the first dead body, the first dead body. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but it's on my TikTok somewhere down there. If you scroll, you'll find it. But it was kind of an ominous kind of energy considering what happened to Shanquella. And I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if they were alluding to what they were going to end up doing to her. I don't know. But in that video, he's filming her like, oh, the first dead body, alluding to the fact that she's the first one to pass out. The night goes on, they drink, they party, whatever. The concierge says around 1:52 exactly p.m. Cabo time, he gets a text from Dejanay. And the text is requiring medical attention because with the villa, with the information, they have all of the, if you need us, we can contact a doctor, da 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 kind of stuff. So she contacts the concierge and is like, we need medical help. I think my friend had too much to drink. That's what she said in the text. Okay. So he basically asked her, like, okay, I can call the doctor. It's going to cost this much for him to visit. And then the medication is a separate price, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, hurry, bring the doctor here. Okay. So doctor comes, blah, blah, blah. The point was to determine whether or not Shanquella needed to go to the hospital or not, because the concierge in that text exchange was like, do you want me to call an ambulance? And Dejanay was, no, just the doctor. So it made it clear that she wanted the doctor to come and not for Shanquella to be rushed to the hospital, which is something that's been floating around for many police reports about whether they denied her going to the hospital or not. The concierge, according to the concierge, he offered to call the ambulance when she first asked. She said, no, we just need someone to look her over. And then boom. So at 2 p.m. on Saturday, October the 29th, that's what happened. Basically, that situation goes on. Now, at 4 p.m., at 4:25 p.m., he was texted again about the hospital and her friend were trying to find her insurance. So basically, at 4:25 p.m., he has the messages between him and Dejanay. Remember, the screenshots were attached to those documents where she's basically now saying, we need to take her to the hospital. She needs to go to the hospital. And we are now looking for her insurance card through her stuff because basically the doctor had basically confirmed she needed to go to the hospital, right? So he texts and is like, is it serious? What's going on with her? And they're like, the doctor basically takes over communication and is like, no, it's not serious. She's dehydrated. She just needs an IV. So again, this is the thing with this story that we need to like take into account, because I'm just going to quickly pause here. Nobody actually knows what actually happened except for the Cabo Six and Shanquella, right? Nobody actually knows what actually happened between the 28th and the 29th and that video happening and all of that. All the evidence that we have as a public are what the Cabo Six told Shanquella's parents and the medical people in Cabo, which is alcohol poisoning. We have the fact that that video came out that proved that there was an altercation. And we have the literal physicality of Shanquella's body, the condition of Shanquella's body when her body was gotten back to her parents in the United States, where she looked like she had been beaten up, and the autopsy was done, concluding the fact that she had been physically battered and attacked. Okay. Again, we don't know the details of this. We don't know the truth. We're just going by these text messages that are allowing for a clearer picture to be made about the timing of events of when people were called and what happened. So basically, at 4:25, the doctor basically says she's unconscious. She needs an IV. She's dehydrated. Da 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 da. Later, the Santiago, the administrator who was interviewed previously, called an ambulance, called the concierge and was like, "Hey, did you call an ambulance?" And the concierge was like, "No, I didn't call an ambulance." And he was like, "Okay, well, an ambulance is trying to get into the property to go to Villa number 3. What happened? What's going on?" So again, now the ambulance came. We know that it was too late, obviously, but the ambulance came and was trying to get in. And basically, that's what happened. The concierge was requested by the administrator to go to the villa to check out what's happening. And this is where the concierge sees that there's police officers on the scene now. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, things are going by quickly and it's very blurry exactly what was going on wrong with Shanquella, because the doctor himself was saying conflicting things like she doesn't need the doctor, she doesn't need to go to the hospital, she's just dehydrated, she just needs an IV. But then there's an ambulance here right now and we're trying to find her insurance card. So again, it is very sketchy about what truly happened. And until these people are extradited and start flipping on each other, it's likely we won't know the truth. Okay. So basically, sorry, I have to pick up where I left off, blah, blah, blah. Yes, the concierge shows up, police are there, everyone's there, all of this stuff. And essentially, he sees that one of Cabo Six, is on the phone with a family member or a friend back home in America, talking to them on the phone, described as someone who looked like Khalil Cook. And what the assumption being made is that's Khalil Cook calling Shanquella's family, saying that she had passed away from the alcohol poisoning. Okay. So, yes. Okay. Here's the weird part. Basically, he goes to Dejanay. He's talking to her. She basically tells him that Shanquella passed away, and he's basically like, "Okay, I'm so sorry she passed away," and is trying to comfort her and talk to her and stuff like that. And he remembers Dejanay being very cold to him, like no emotion. But again, he didn't clock anything. He just assumed alcohol poisoning. This was a shocking thing. She's in shock. But now looking back at the events that transpired, he's not completely sure. So he hugs her. He goes outside, and when he passes through the villa, the Cabo Six are all in the living room of the villa, sitting around with each other, talking to each other and stuff like that. He leaves and goes outside of the villa. And as soon as he leaves, he hears a ton of laughter. Okay. He hears a ton of laughter. He leaves, hears a ton of laughter from the villa, from the Cabo Six. And he was like, this seems weird because their friend just died. What, like, he's just like shocked by their reaction. Again, he's just kind of meandering around. He was helping translate when they were talking to the police officers and stuff like that. But he was just meandering around, and eventually he was told to leave the scene. Okay. So I just want to sit on that for a second because that's so crazy to me. I mean, imagine you are on a trip with your friends, someone ends up dying, and there's a bunch of laughter afterwards. Like I don't like to get into how people grieve. Like that's why I was shooting Dejanay bail. Like, maybe she was in shock. But the fact that right after that encounter, when he noticed Dejanay was really cold to him and just kind of like short with him, like, thank you, bye, kind of thing, he leaves immediately and there's a ton of laughter. That's weird. Let me read this comment. Do you think that they were trying to sell her body parts on the black market? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of like conspiracy theories about what happened again because it's like up to the Cabo Six, Shanquella, and the Lord about what happened in those hours at this point. But honestly, I don't think it's any more nefarious than it already is. I think something happened with her friends. I think her friends are evil, and I think her friends are protecting themselves. I think I don't know if there was a constructed plan, if she was set up to go, I'm not sure. But I don't think there was some big conspiracy about selling her body parts to the black market. I honestly just think that she had terrible friends and they did not like her. Okay, so let me just continue. Yeah. Okay, so he leaves. The concierge leaves the place, leaves the scene. Basically, the police leave, everybody leaves, and he gets a text hours later from Dejanay Jackson again. And she's like, hey, can you give us some transportation? Organize us some transportation because we want to go to dinner. We haven't eaten all day. So I heard a lot of different comments because I was watching the North Carolina Beats live stream when he's reading these documents live. A lot of people said that was weird. A lot of people said this and that. Personally, as we know, I think we're putting a little extra sauce on the situation because obviously we know that they're guilty. Me personally, what it seemed like, just being real, they had been caught up all day with their friend dying. Hi, honey. How are you? And they had been caught up all day because their friend was dying, with interviews and stuff, and they really truly were hungry. I'm not sure. To be honest, though, I feel like they could have gotten the chef to come and cook them something, but I don't know if they wanted to stay in the villa where Shanquella died. So there's a bunch of plausible reasons as to why they went out, why they shouldn't have gone out. It depends on what side of the fence you sit on, to be personal and to be real. But Dejanay Jackson contacted the concierge again that night, basically asking for transportation to a restaurant. Okay. Okay, now this is where it gets weird. They go out to dinner in Cabo. They go out to dinner, and basically they go out to dinner, and the driver works for the villa. I think we need to understand how the villa works. There's lots of employees, drivers, people who work for the company that owns the villas in this area. So he organized them to get picked up from the villa to go to town to get dinner and to feed themselves. But I don't think what the Cabo Six didn't realize was that they were in contact, the driver was in contact with the concierge as well at the same time, letting him know, I dropped them off here, the ride is over, all of that kind of thing. So the concierge was getting notice from the back end, from the driver, about exactly where they went, exactly when they were dropped off, and exactly what time the ride or the transportation ended. He wasn't getting that from Dejanay. So driver comes, organize a driver, take them into town. They get dinner. Hours go by and he doesn't hear anything until the driver basically sends him a message and is like, finish the ride. The ride is done. And I drop them off at an airport hotel. So at this point, he hasn't heard from Dejanay about anything, about needing anything, about any of that. So he texts Dejanay like, do you need anything? She doesn't respond. So he's getting information about what I think the Cabo Six thought was they were just going to say, take us to dinner. They were going to go to dinner and use that same taxi guy to take them to the airport hotel, and the concierge would be none the wiser. The concierge would still think that they were going back to the villa and it wouldn't be that big of a deal, blah, blah, blah. They didn't think that the person driving that truck had to be in contact with the concierge to update them because, as we know, Mexico is shaky on its safety sometimes. So I'm sure it's a safety measure to be, if something were to happen, if people were to get kidnapped, as we're seeing all of a sudden all the time now, the concierge can say the driver did drop them off. They did go to this restaurant. They did end up back at the villa. The driver did confirm that with me. So it must have happened after that. You know what I'm saying? To create plausible deniability for themselves so they're not held accountable or responsible if something were to go wrong. They have timestamps of when the ride started and when the ride ended. You feel me? So he texts Dejanay acting dumb on purpose, saying like, oh, do you need anything from me? Do you need anything? To radio silence from Dejanay Jackson. But he already knows that they were dropped off at a whole other hotel by the airport at this point. They had gone to dinner and had already been dropped off at the airport hotel. He doesn't hear anything from Dejanay for the next day, pretty much. So, yes. Now, here's the crazy part. The next day, the maid comes to the villa to clean up. I don't know if she had been warned. I don't know what the maid knew, but she came in and basically texted the concierge like, hey, are the people still, are they coming back? Did they leave early? Did they check out? Because nobody's at the villa. And so that just confirmed to the concierge what the transportation person told him the night before about dropping them off at the airport hotel. So he basically was like, that's weird, like, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he again texts Dejanay, like, do you need anything? Blah, 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 hoping that maybe she would say, oh, we caught a flight out. We're going to see her family, something like that. Radio silence. Radio silence. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So radio silence. Then the very next day, hold on. I need to sneeze. I'm so sorry. The very next day, okay, he gets a text from Dejanay Jackson, and presumably this is her already safe back in the United States. We have to assume she wasn't responding because, of course, she was trying to get out of Mexico without being hemmed up for what happened to Shanquella. So she's not responding to him when he's like, do you need anything? Do you need anything? Even though he already knows they're at the airport hotel. But at the same time, you know, she also was probably on the plane traveling. So traveling back to North Carolina. So the next day, presumably they're all already back. They landed back in America at this point. Dejanay Jackson finally sends her final message to the concierge and basically was like, hey, do we need to do anything specific for checkout? I'm just letting you know that we already left, blah, blah, blah. If there's anything we need to do, just text me. We'll send money. We'll send whatever needs to be done. But just let us know if there's anything specific we need to do for checkout. We've already left. So contact me if there's a problem with our checkout, kind of thing. And he basically said, there's nothing extra you need to do. I'm sorry about what happened to your friend, and kind of ended things on those terms. That's the last communication he had with Dejanay Jackson. Days later is when the video drops and breaks the internet. And I don't think we understand how viral that video was. So basically, days later, after his final communication with Dejanay, because we have to remember, we're looking at this with hindsight, 2020 vision. We're like, see, that was weird. That was weird. She was lying. Da, da, da. We know. But this concierge lived through it. So he's not assuming the worst of these people. They lost a friend. He's assuming that they're just too stressed. They're talking to her family. They don't have time to respond. So they just left in a hurry because of this, and that. It isn't until the video drops and the concierge sees it, immediately spotting the villa, immediately spotting Dejanay Jackson, immediately spotting Shanquella, fighting in that video. It isn't until he sees that he realizes, oh, something's not right. Whatever they were telling me, something's not right. Not only is something not right, but they're in America now. And I was lost in the sauce. And I think that's something that we really need to pay attention to when it comes to, sorry, I have to have my tea. This situation, because a lot of people like to say, well, if I were this, I would have known that, blah, 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 blah. This is his job. People aren't supposed to die on vacation like this. He met these people. He was intimate with these people enough to know who and so were. No one was expecting someone to die in the villa, no less. It was an unexpected twist of events. So he's trying to deal with it as professionally as he can as their concierge, and he doesn't know them to assume the worst. He's believing what Dejanay is saying, because noted in the beginning of his testimony, he was saying, hey, I noticed that they had a ton of alcohol. They were already drinking, da 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 da. So in his mind, it could have definitely been alcohol poisoning. Again, he wasn't on the scene until after she was pronounced dead. He wasn't on the scene seeing her condition. He never saw her body. So he's just going off of what people are saying. You know what I'm saying? And so people were saying in that live, like, shoulda, coulda, woulda, blah, 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 blah. But we have to remember to give grace, because this is his job and he doesn't really know. So he's just going with what he's being told, assuming that they're busy trying to make arrangements for their friend's situation, going back home to talk to their family and all of that, and not that they're trying to escape murder, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Let me see. I'm going to look through these. I'm also on live on TikTok, guys. That's why I'm looking over here. But I just want to see some of these comments really quick. This story touched me in a different way. I was almost Shanquella. That's why it hits home. Oh, I'm so sorry that you had a terrible experience. His days will be numbered. The whole Cabo 6. Yes. Pure jealousy. I don't know how they faced her mother. I don't know how either, child. I don't know how anyone could face her family. I can't wait until you get done so you can answer some questions I have to get caught up. Oh, yeah. Okay, so all I have to really say to finish this, let me finish this out and then we can get it. Basically, the video drops. He realized that he was manipulated, but at this point, they're in America now. So again, it's a whole process. It's a whole process. Thank God the world fell in love with Shanquella and we're pushing for justice for Shanquella at the time. I wouldn't say so much now. It feels like people forgot. I'm never going to forget her. They pushed, the video went viral. Everyone was calling for justice. And now we are basically where we're at now. Now, again, like I said at the top, if you weren't here at the beginning of this live, these are all written down testimonies that were taken in a judicial room, in a judicial place in Mexico, because Shanquella's family and their family attorneys went down to Mexico and conducted their own investigation and interviewed the people who worked at the villa. So that's where all this information is. And if you go to my live on YouTube, you can go to the North Carolina Beat full live where he has all the documents and screenshots of that. But yeah, so that's basically where that ended. He realized he'd been manipulated. He realized he needed to talk to somebody, and that's why he was willing to speak to the investigators of this case in terms of Shanquella's family and the lawyers and stuff, because he knew he had been fully manipulated, because he knew that Dejanay Jackson was trying to get all 6 of them back to America before anything dropped. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where he was saying, being cold with him, not answering the phone on purpose. He was bringing all of their interaction back and realizing he had been fully manipulated. Again, what I don't think they bargained for was that the transporter was telling him all the tea, where they were going and where they were stopping and when the ride was over. But at the end of the day, they made it out to America. And so the case is where it is now, where we need coordination between 2 governments, and nobody knew. Everyone assumed it was alcohol poisoning until the body, and all of this delays an investigation, if that makes sense. Like, the lies, the bullshit that people had to tread through in order to get to the truth, which is she definitely didn't die from alcohol poisoning. She definitely was beat up, and the people she was with definitely put their hands on her. That all happened after the fact, and now people had already fled. I know that by the time the video dropped and got big, Dejanay Jackson fled to Connecticut. People were flying to New York to flee all the press. Not that they could, but yeah, so that's basically what went down and what was in those documents. I'm going to read some TikTok questions, YouTube, and I'll answer them for you right now. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. And if you're curious more, you can always watch the replay of this. Have they started any court procedures? No, they have not. This is the saddest part about this case. Like, remember when you would open TikTok, open any Facebook, Instagram, anything, and it was like every day was a new thing. This happened, this got found out, this so-and-so went live, so-and-so was going to go live, all of this stuff. It is dried up, and that's why I'm always going to be updating you guys. It may be months in between because these things are moving slow now, but I will never not update you guys on what's going on with this case because it's too close to home. She would have been a year younger than me. She's a young Black girl doing her thing, and it's so sad to know what happened to her and to know that in 8 days, it'll be 5 months since this happened, and no one has been arrested. No one is in custody. No one is going to court. We're still waiting on the process of extradition to happen. When she walked into the room being positive and everyone went silent, I know how she felt. Yeah. What case is this? This is a Shanquella Robinson case. It happened over the weekend of Halloween. I have lots of updates on my TikTok if you're more curious about it. But yeah, as well as my YouTube. If you're here in this live, both of y'all subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a long list of updates. I go live all the time, and I specialize in BIPOC true crime stories. So if you are into this kind of content, understand that I make this is my thing. This is what I do. And just know, go to the Insta icon in my bio, hit that, go to my channel, subscribe, and you can catch up with all my updates in my live tab. And on TikTok, I do a bunch of updates on this story. I just do. Let's see. No, Mexico and the US have released statements. No arrests, unfortunately. Yep, that's what's happening. But why didn't he come forward early on the thought of something wasn't right? Well, this is the thing. We don't know if he came forward in Mexico to the press in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Like, not too much on the concierge, guys, because I feel like the reality is he knew something was wrong. He was willing to speak. He was willing to work with Shanquella Robinson's family. We don't know if he went to the press, if he went to the police, all of this stuff. He realized something was amiss when they had already escaped back to the United States and the video dropped. So time had elapsed between them being there and them being in the United States. So not too much on the concierge because his testimony is still valuable and still important. Period. But the truth is, when you trust people, when you believe people at face value, he had no reason not to believe what she was saying. So why would he assume, they killed their friend? Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's why we're always also in shock about this story, because it doesn't make sense. So I feel like it's possible he may have gone to the authorities to say his piece in Mexico. It may have just not gotten the press here. The only reason why we know that he felt away and knew something was wrong when the video drops is because Shanquella Robinson's family is not giving up and is making sure there's justice. So we wouldn't have known had Shanquella Robinson's family not gone there to get the statement on paper, on the record, to bring back here to Biden to force his hand to do the thing, It's infuriating how no arrests have been made. I hope that when this does go to trial, that all 6 are prosecuted and none are given immunity. Agreed. Also, shocking how the man said that they were laughing after her death. Exactly. Crazy how all these wicked people find each other and band together. No remorse. Very horrible. Very, very horrible. Very, very horrible. If you've have Chromecast, you can watch both streams at once to help interaction. Just mute one side. Oh, that's sweet. So will they be charged by the US? Now, this is the thing. It happened in Mexico. So the process, if I'm not a lawyer, y'all, I'm not an international lawyer, but from what I know, the process, since it happened on Mexican soil, the Mexican authorities are in charge of this case and investigating this case and bringing it to justice. The US involvement is purely to coordinate with the Mexican police. The FBI involvement is to coordinate with the Mexican authorities to be able to round up all of the Cabo Six and extradite them officially to Mexico to face those charges. That is what our involvement is supposed to be. I don't know if the US could charge them for some, evading kind of thing on their end. I'm not sure. But since it was an international crime, the US isn't in charge of solving it, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. If you, let me see here. That's why I'm glad you're talking about this. Bless you. Thank you. OMJ, love you. Hi, Nat. Hi, baby. I love you. Have you heard from her parents lately? Have we heard from our parents lately? The last time I heard from her parents was when they did Nancy Grace. I heard her mom did Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace, the lawyer, the prosecutor, who's famous, had a show at one point, blah, blah, blah. She has a podcast now. The family went on the podcast. The mom went on the podcast. I know the dad went to the North Carolina Beat and TMZ. And the sister had her older sister had an interview with the North Carolina Beat, which is a really good interview that adds context to a lot of how she found out, which was sick because she found out by the video. It's a whole thing. But go to the North Carolina Beats page to see all of these lives because he is in contact with the family directly. He has the most accurate information by way of the family. So he's the best person to watch on YouTube or any kind of social media platform for updates. But I haven't heard from anything about Shanquella's family going on the record or doing anything since they called on Biden to get involved, but it wasn't like an interview, if that makes sense. Let's see. He gave them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Let them rot in Mexico. Don't let the US charge them, child. Seriously. I'm a lawyer. My friend Naeem's a lawyer in the comments. He knows. I went to college with him. He's the best. So Nazir knew. I see the Nazir Wiggins piece is so weird to me. If y'all know, y'all know. Because if you've been following this case, you know that as soon as the video went up, this nigga went live smoking a blunt, trying to say his piece with no legal representation on Instagram Live, and was basically saying a whole lot of nothing. Now, child, he was saying times that didn't exist, different things that didn't exist. Basically, if we're going based off of what the concierge put on record, okay, he didn't fly in till the 29th. The video was taken, the fight happened early in the morning on the 29th, according to the administrator who noted that, right? So whatever happened with Shanquella was between the early hours of the 29th and when she was pronounced dead sometime in the afternoon. Nazir went live with his stupid behind talking about he came at this time and all of this stuff. But it didn't make sense because he was talking about in that live how he was comforting Shanquella. He was next to her. They were listening to Summer Walker, I believe he was saying in that live, and he was calming her down and all of this stuff. And he was next to her and he just didn't know what happened. But according to him, when he would have touched down, she would have already been pronounced dead. So the timelines don't add up. The timelines don't add up. He really wasn't there on the 28th when whatever happened. I don't know if he was involved in what happened, but when he came out the side of his neck high on Instagram Live talking about how he didn't have anything to do with anything, the timelines aren't adding up. So I don't really know what that alludes to. Maybe he was involved, maybe he wasn't, but he is involved in the sense that he has not stepped forward and allowed himself to be interviewed by the FBI. He has not called anyone out. He has not given up his phone. He has not done anything. He fled to New York when the video dropped. So at this point, it's like, you're as guilty as all these other people, because if Shanquella was your friend of 11 years, as he was trying to claim on his Instagram live, you would be doing anything to make sure this case is solved. One would assume. One would assume you would be turning over, you would be doing this, you would be telling top to bottom everything you know, your phone, the text messages, are y'all in a group chat? Like, all of that would be done. He's not doing that. He's not cooperating. He fled to New York when all of this dropped. So to me, he's guilty. He's guilty. The fact that they lied about the alcohol poisoning, yes, he's just as guilty. Talking about that, how he didn't get a chance to even ride the ATVs. I know that live was a mess. That live was a mess. I was shocked by that live. Has her body been released to the family yet? Yes. So I got this question on my YouTube live. Her body has been, so here's the story with the body. If you guys don't know, this is old news. Again, I've been doing updates on this story since it happened. So it's on one of my other updated lives, but I'll tell you guys really quick what happened with the body. The dad went live, interviewed by the North Carolina Beat. That was the first live interview the father had done. The father basically talked about how he found out that Shanquella passed away in this very odd way, in this very roundabout way, from the mom who heard from Khalil Cook. They were already kind of suspicious about the alcohol poisoning thing. You know what I mean? They were kind of like, how could something like that happen? Da 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 da. But they weren't really assuming that the friends had anything to do with it. You know what I mean? So basically, the mom had to get in contact with the FBI to handle them getting their hands on her body so they could do a burial and all of that kind of thing. The FBI wasn't helping, according to the mom and according to the dad. So the dad and the dad's brother researched on their own, Googled funeral homes in Cabo, and they called every single one until they landed on one that had Shanquella's body. The person on the other side of that phone, he said, was his guardian angel, because that woman was like, I will not stop until I know that her body is in your possession in the United States. So she helped them with the paperwork, helped translate stuff, told them what to do. They paid, I think it was $6,000 to $7,000 to get her body back from Mexico. It came back to a funeral home in North Carolina. The dad and the uncle were the ones to look over the body to make sure and identify that it was Shanquella, in fact. And that is when they saw that she was beaten up. There were bruises, there was marks, there was all sorts of stuff. Like, she was clearly beaten up physically in the coffin. So that's when the dad was like, clearly the alcohol poisoning story goes out the window, because I don't know if she fell downstairs, but if you have alcohol poisoning, that's an internal thing, not something that shows up in bruises and black eyes and broken bones. So yeah, so they have the body. She was actually buried, I believe, in November, early November, if I'm not mistaken. There's a TikTok video where I talk about that. She had a beautiful ceremony, beautiful coffin, very, very sad. But they have the body. They did a full autopsy, because that's the thing. The person who received the body at the funeral home in North Carolina was expecting someone with alcohol poisoning. Clearly, she was not. They offered to make sure an autopsy was done. The dad was like, absolutely, because obviously this doesn't look like alcohol poisoning. Alas, here we are, unfortunately. What's your YouTube channel? Trying to keep up with the case, but only see a few people still. Yeah, so if you go to my TikTok page, you can look at the pinned videos, but if you're just trying to get there, go to YouTube, search Madi Swan, spelled like on my handle, just Madi Swan on YouTube. You can find me there and subscribe. And if you go on my channel page, there's a tab that says live, and all my Shanquella updates are live videos. So you can search for them there. Yeah, there's that. I think I have one video that isn't alive in my videos, but you can search around for them there. But I also do TikTok updates and stuff like that here. Again, you could also hit the Insta icon on TikTok, go to my channel, subscribe, please subscribe. Mwah. Thank you very much. I have a bunch of content surrounding BIPOC true crime, but I'm following this case live because I feel connected to Shanquella. She deserves justice, and I'm going to keep talking about the story. The FBI did an autopsy as well. Yes, exactly. Let's see. But weren't they drinking at dinner when they made the toast in the video? They were definitely drinking. It was $6,000. Thank you for correcting me. $6,000 to bring the body back. There's conflicting stories about Shanquella's story. Some friends said she was a drinker. Some people didn't say. You know, it's up in the air. Either way, it clearly wasn't alcohol poisoning. I think we all know. I don't know if you know, but if you have alcohol poisoning, it's an internal thing. You don't have black eyes and broken bones from that, just so you know. No one's in jail, unfortunately. Of course, I'm going to keep updating you guys. Let's see. Any other questions before I end this live? She died of a broken neck and blunt force trauma to the head, to the front of the head. They went for dinner together, right? Yes, they went for dinner after she was pronounced dead, and then took the taxi to an airport hotel where they then caught a flight and got back to America as quick as possible. Yeah. Pretty suspicious to me. Let me pontificate a little more on this live really quickly about, is there any more news about the second video? The father did mention it. I don't know if there's a second video. I haven't seen a second video. Don't know. Can't confirm, can't deny. One person said it's one long video and they only released a certain part of the video. I don't know where that part is. I don't know if the person who released the video in the first place has been found. I don't know anything about the second video, but I know that it was mentioned. All I have to say to you guys is this is why I made my YouTube channel, was for stories like Shanquella. If you want a better example as to how the justice system deals with Black murders and white murders differently, compare this case to the Gabby Petito case from 2021. Okay? And it is not just the justice system, it is people as well. Because as we know, there's only a few people still updating people about whatever they can scrounge up on this case to keep her name in the news. Y'all remember the Gabby Petito case? Hashtags until she was found. Pressure being put on the FBI. People were taking screenshots of the back of the van and comparing the sticker placement from this to that and that to this. Okay? Or the Idaho case, period. The heat of the nation, the eyes of the nation were on all freaking governmental departments to solve those cases until those cases were solved. We are not disposable. We are humans too, and we deserve the same type of attention and care to be done when we have things happen to us. This is why I don't trust police and the government and things like that, because it's so easy for our stuff to get explained away and get swept under the rug. I remember I did an update a while ago on TikTok, and I was saying, y'all, I don't know. It seems like the FBI hasn't been speaking to the family, hasn't been communicating to the family. Immediately, everyone was like, well, the FBI works slow, and the FBI does this, and the FBI does that, and do, and tried to like check me. But I was like, no, because if I know based on let's see, John Benet Ramsey, Natalie Holloway, all of these white blonde girls that come up missing, who come up murdered, who come up in these situations, they work pretty swift to me. And in this case, the FBI really just needs to coordinate with the Mexican police to get these people extradited. It's not even like they're trying the case. They just need to sign the papers, round up the people, and get them to Mexico so they can face what they need to face. That is what the holdup is. They're not doing it. These people have been allowed to live a life. They were allowed to have Christmas and New Year's, things that Shanquella was not allowed to celebrate. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like when I said that and people were like, well, the FBI, and it's like, I don't trust them. They don't care about me. They don't care about people like me. The only reason why crimes with people like me get solved is because of grassroots stuff, and then the shame of those governments when they are called out for not helping. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that Shanquella Robinson's family even had to have the lawyers go to Mexico to do this, to get the documents, to get people on record, to go write a letter to President Biden with all these screenshots and all this evidence and all this stuff, for them to even have her be in the news again. And that was a fleeting news story because we haven't heard anything since. I don't know if Biden has even addressed the family. You know what I'm saying? We have to do shit like that for us to get anything, any kind of traction moving. And it pisses me off because because I get people who comment on my videos and say, like, you should do this case, you should do this case. And it's always cases with white women at the center of it. I'm tired. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing a case like that because there's a million people who do it. I'm doing cases about Indigenous women, about Asian women, about trans people, about gay people, about marginalized people only. Okay? Because we don't get enough shine and our stories get swept under the rug like we're nothing. And we deserve to have a platform to have our stories screamed out until they are solved and to be cared about. It's not even just the media attention that happens when a Gabby Petito case happens. It's not even just they kept Gabby in the news. Exactly. It's not even just the intention that happens, immediately when that case is solved or brought to the media. It's also the documentaries that come out about it. Okay, Lacey Peterson has had a documentary out how many times? And that keeps her name alive. JonBenet Ramsey has had 47 documentaries. The brother did it. The mom covered it up. Come on. Like, this is what I mean. We don't get that. We don't get the same level of news attention when it happens. We also don't get the same legacy of documentaries, people obsessing, true crime videos, and YouTubers and podcasts doing full length stories on it. It just dies. It just stops. So, what pisses me off about this case specifically is the fact that so many people online got such a big following by doing Shanquella Robinson updates in October. Because that was the thing to do. If you wanted clicks, if you wanted engagement, you would do a Shanquella Robinson update and people would come to your page because it was hot news. But now that it's not hot news anymore, guess what? No one's posting about her. There's people, I can count like 4 people that still post about her. And I'm one of them. And it's just so disheartening that it's like you're doing what our justice system does to us all the time, which is it's hot, it's popular, I'm going to attach myself to it. And I'm only talking about this because I'm getting something in return. I'm building a following off of this. I'm being able to get engagement. I'm getting thousands of followers because I'm talking about this. I'm only interested as long as it gets me something. Baby, my last Shanquella Robinson update video got like 600 views. Like, I'm still going to talk about it. I'm still going to go live about her. I'm still going to discuss it because nothing has been solved. They're still here. They're still in America somewhere, living in secret. People are hiding them, and they have not gone to Mexico to face the crimes that they need to face. And that is the only way that these crimes get solved, is by the pressure and the activism and the name being kept alive, so that people are always checking in with the departments like the FBI to say, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? What's going on? What's going on? But when that dies down, they don't have an incentive to keep investigating. They don't have an incentive to continue looking into anything, because why? No one's watching, no one's showing that they care publicly. So if no one's going to check us, then we can move on to the next thing. And that's why Shanquella Robinson's parents and family and lawyers decided to write that letter to Biden after the kidnappings that happened with the cartels in Mexico, because that case was solved so fast. And I obviously know there are different cases. The cartel got involved to out the people who did it, but they were like, we need you guys to extradite these people. That's what you need to do. And no one's stepping up to do it. I made an entire YouTube channel dedicated to BIPOC true crime stories for this very purpose, for this very reason. And that's why I'm really trying to stick with this story and update you with whatever I can find, because it's important and her name needs to be kept alive, even if it's only me. But it's not just, her. There's a million and one of these stories that don't get discussed, that don't get talked about, and it's important that we talk about them, because if we do not, they do not get solved. And that's just the unfortunate truth. We are not white people. This is not a case with a beautiful white girl at the center of it. This is a case with a Black girl at the center of it. And we're seeing the results of that in the lack of action. And it's very disheartening. So if you're interested in true crime, but you're tired of the same milquetoast stories being told over and over again that only talk about John Benet Ramsey and Lacey Peterson and Natalie Holloway, if you want a story that you've never heard before, a story of something that needs to be solved, an unsolved story, all of that kind of stuff, subscribe to my channel, because that's all that I talk about. That's all that I talk about. With that being said, thank you for being on this live. I will update you guys shortly. I will probably be going live in the next week or so to, just talk about some other stuff. I talk about a lot on my page. But anyway, in terms of this situation, this update is done. No more updates. This is all I have. No one has been arrested. If you want to watch the replay and you missed it on TikTok, go to my YouTube channel. Again, if you're on TikTok, hit the Insta icon in the bio. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, or search Madiswan on YouTube and you will find me. Subscribe. If you are on YouTube and you're watching me and you're not subscribed, subscribe. But if you want to watch the replay, that's where it'll be at. Love you. Thank you. Kiss you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Justice for Shanquella. Okay? Bye, guys. Love you. Thanks for being here.